Okay, we're going on to our next category. Now we've spent half an hour on pitch, which didn't surprise us at all because we think that the whole use of pitch range is one of the most important things you can do to get more range, more expression into your speaking voice.
And also to save your voice from fatigue if you're speaking on a long-term basis every day.
Well, and you will have heard that even just without doing all the exercises, we're using quite a wide pitch range in what we're doing. This is the difficulty, you know. You're now going to start tuning into what we're doing, which makes me feel a little nervous. Okay, so we're on to the next one, which is pace. Now, pace is governed by airflow, breath spaces, and speed of articulation. And a fast pace can indicate either excitement or nerves. There's pluses and minuses here. And a slow pace can indicate either thoughtfulness or dullness. When speaking to a group, by the way, allow yourself time to breathe because that lets the listeners compute your message. It lets the listeners take a little bit of time to understand what you're talking about.
And it allows them in. And I was just thinking, Jeremy, you know, I'm sure that everybody here can think of maybe a teacher or a lecturer or sometimes someone in a church, politicians, of course, and TV personalities who have both positive and negative uses of pace. And then you have sort of comedians who imitate people. They really make use of this. I just want to give an example of someone perhaps with a fast pace. Pace is governed by airflow, breath spaces and speed of articulation. Fast pace can indicate either excitement or nerves. Now that can be absolutely fine in a one-to-one situation. But it's really quite comical when you hear that in a public situation.
Now, there are two elements to pace, and we just want to make this clear. The speed of the words and the use of the pause, and they're both equally important. By matching someone else's pace, you can create a rapport, or, if you want to, you can deliberately unsettle them. And Gillyanne has already said, comedians use pace to highlight the punchline and to exaggerate for comic effect. And I'm going to give you two demonstrations. Again, these are British comedians. So look them up on the net if you haven't heard of them. Victoria Wood does a one-woman show, and at the beginning of the second half she comes out with a character, and the character speaks like this. Hello, I'm looking for me friend Kimberly. Have you seen her? So you've got quite slow pace and huge pauses, and that already sets up a comic effect.
Well, and it also, I think it's intended, it gives us the impression that this is a very slow thinking woman.
Absolutely. And the opposite to that is Matt Lucas in Little Britain doing the Vicky Pollard character, and I'm afraid I'm not even going to attempt to imitate that.
But she's the one who does yeah but no but yeah but no but.
Yeah, it's very fast diction and no pauses at all.
And the impression, of course, that you get from that, aside from it being comic, is that this is someone who's going to make sure that nobody can put a word in, and therefore she is going to win her point. So that those are two opposite examples of impressions that you can give by having a pace that perhaps doesn't work for you.
We're going to let you into a couple of our own secrets. When we're on a webinar like this, because you can't see us, we have slightly speeded up the way that we talk. I mean, I do talk fairly fast anyway, but I'm actually deliberately speaking slightly faster because it creates the interest. And you'll also notice that Gillyanne and I will cut across each other, or we'll pick up the sentence almost immediately, so that there are very few silent pauses, only the ones that we're giving you the chance to try things out. And when we are doing presentations abroad, where we're working with an audience where English isn't their first language, we've worked in Israel, we've worked in Sweden, we've worked actually in quite a few places, Spain recently. One of the things that we do is slow down the pace for the first 10 minutes of the presentation, and we make the pauses slightly longer so that people can tune in to what we're saying, to our speaking voices, to our language.
And we know that this works because people come up to us afterwards and say, oh, I was so worried that I wasn't going to be able to enjoy the presentation because my English wouldn't be good enough.
They've all said, you know, it really works and they really understood it.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to share with you is that often in a one-to-one situation, in a singing lesson, for example, which is, you know, my situation, you might have a client who has a very different pace from you, and this is where the rapport comes in. Now, as I'm sure you can all tell, I'm a fairly measured person. I tend not to speak very fast, and I don't tend to show a lot of levels of excitement. But I work with performers, and a performer might come in the room and is sort of highly energised and highly excited. And if what I do then is I respond with this sort of rather measured way of speaking, that person might think I'm not very interested in them. So I will deliberately start to match their pace in order to get the rapport, and then I can change it if I want to. It's enormously helpful for those of you working in a therapeutic situation, in a situation where perhaps you need to persuade people in a business situation or an interview, and in singing lessons.
We were in Sweden recently, and we worked with a group of 150 teenagers in a room, and I found myself talking very fast and not letting up the pace at all, so that everything topped everything else just to keep their interest.
It even woke up the comatose people.